Sometimes you have a strength, and everybody around you sees it as a weakness. This is a poem about that. Jillian never could sit still in class, feet tapping, fingers snapping, rhythms 1, 2. Shoulders always bouncing, her head wants to groove, but the figures always stood stock still against the chalkboard. They were slick and silent and so slippery. Her mind slipped and skated right off them. She loved to be called to the front, because it meant she could finally lift out of her chair and float forward, toes flirting with the floorboards. But once she was there, she could never remember what it was she was supposed to be doing. The chalk always shook against the board, out of rhythm. Spell, castle, add 3 to 5, define freedom. But she could never get it right on the first try, or on the second. So she had to sit down, Jillian. The teachers tried to help her, but she made the others nervous, added agitation to the atmosphere, couldn't stop tapping, drove teachers to distraction, couldn't pass the first grade, or the second, started to get nervous, and this made the tapping worse. Now it always came out of rhythm, so they had her hold her hands. Couldn't stop, hold the desk, couldn't stop, hold herself, but she would vibrate like a tuning fork, squirming out of the teacher's straitjacket stare. The principal said she was sick. So her mother took her to one of those men with glasses who know how to fix you, can put in a shiny little cage for those mice in your mind, can straighten your brainstem and snap it back to your spine, can always find a solution. Barely even looked at her, just asked her mother what was wrong with her, how long had she had this problem, and Jillian tried to sit on her hands, but she couldn't stop moving. Finally the man stood up. Said he needed to talk to her mother alone, and as he walked out, he turned on the radio and closed the door behind him, and turned to Jillian's mother and said, "What?" And I watched through that little glass window as the music crept along the desk and spilled off the edges and lifted Jillian right out of her chair. She turned slowly and raised her arms to cradle every bar as she spun. The arpeggios wiped all the dust out of her mind. Decades passed and thunderstorms crashed within her and washed all the nervousness out. She turned as if she knew what she was supposed to be doing, to find freedom with the lines of her elbows, traced the turrets of castles from an architect's prayer, and knew with every breath that 3 and 5 is simply 8. Jillian never could sit still and dance class, feet tapping, fingers snapping, rhythms 1, 2, loved to be called to the mirror to imitate every move, and more often than not, got it exactly right on the first try. Jillian never could sit still, period. The subway ride to the recital was its own performance. Every mile was 5,000 dance steps. She brushed her teeth in time, washed her hands like an opera. When she needed to think, she moved a little more, because she knew that thinking was moving, moving was living. Each step was only breathing, each pirouette just a pulse. And years later, Jillian never could sit still in her hospital bed. Feet tapping, fingers snapping, rhythms 1, 2, shoulders always bouncing, her head wants to groove. The doctor smiled like they heard music, said, "She's a famous dancer." And even to the very end, she never stopped moving. Just leapt up to meet the angel of death in the doorway, grabbed him by the waist, and waltzed away into the golden light.